Hi and welcome to Axiom Chemistry. In this video, we're going to talk about compounds, molecules and mixtures. But first, a quick reminder of what we've already learned about elements and atoms. These two definitions here are really important. In fact, they're so important, I'm going to read them to you again. A chemical element, as you should remember, is a substance that cannot be separated by ordinary chemical means into simpler substances. And then an atom is simply the smallest particle of a chemical element. Now, as I said, these two definitions are really important, and now I'm going to add a third definition to them, that of a compound. A compound consists of atoms of two or more elements joined by a chemical reaction. Let me explain that to you. Let's consider taking one atom of oxygen and two atoms of hydrogen. Now, if these three atoms reacted together, like this, they would form a compound. Three atoms from two different elements which have been joined by a chemical reaction. This is actually a really well-known compound. It's water. Now, there are two important things about compounds which you need to know. The first is this. A compound can only be broken apart by a chemical reaction. So you can't take water and break it up into hydrogen and oxygen without some sort of chemical reaction taking place. And if you do have a reaction and produce hydrogen and oxygen, well, you'll no longer have water. The second important thing for you to know about compounds is this. The properties of compounds are very different from the properties of the elements used to form them. So you can't work out what water is like by studying hydrogen and oxygen. You need to study water itself. It's just not like the elements which it's made from. It's got really different properties. So for instance, it's a liquid at room temperature, whereas they're both gases. Okay, I've got another definition for you now. There are going to be quite a few in this video. And the next definition is that of a molecule. So a molecule is the smallest unit of a chemical compound. I should just mention that not all chemical compounds form molecules. Some have quite different structures, and we'll talk about those later on in Axiom Chemistry. But one example of a compound that does form a molecule is, of course, water. And as we've just seen, each molecule contains one atom of oxygen and two of hydrogen. Now, we don't always want to have to draw little sketches like this one here every time we talk about a compound. So we give compounds names, and we can describe them with symbols. Let me show you what I mean. Let's think about this compound first. As you can see, there's an atom of hydrogen. So it's going to have hydrogen in its name, and it's going to have the symbol H. But notice there are two atoms of hydrogen. So we say dihydrogen, meaning two hydrogens, and then we write a little 2 after the H, so two hydrogens. But of course, there's also an oxygen atom. So we can write dihydrogen oxide and then add an O here. So this name and this set of symbols refers to exactly the same chemical compound as this little sketch here. And I probably should just say that dihydrogen oxide, or dihydrogen monoxide as it's sometimes called to show that there's only one oxygen, is just a technical name that's sometimes used for water. Let me give you another example. How about a molecule made from one carbon atom and two oxygen atoms? Well, there's a carbon atom, so there's going to be carbon in the name. Let's write a C to represent the carbon. There's also an oxygen, so we can write oxide and put an O. But as you can see, there are two oxygens, so it'll be dioxide, and we need a little 2 there. So this is carbon dioxide, or CO2. Now, these groups of symbols have a special name. We call them the molecular formula of the compound. Let me give you a definition of a molecular formula. We can say that a molecular formula shows the number of atoms of each element present in one molecule of a particular substance. So let's look at some examples. Let's think about NH3, which is a substance called ammonia. The N means that it contains one nitrogen atom in each molecule. And the H with the little 3 means that each molecule contains 3 hydrogen atoms. Here's another example, CH4, which is methane gas. This means that it contains one carbon atom in each molecule, and then the H4 means that each molecule contains 4 hydrogen atoms. Now, these molecular formulae are all fairly simple. I'm going to show you a couple of slightly more complicated ones now. First of all, CH12O6, which is the sugar glucose. This means that each molecule of glucose contains 1 carbon atom, 12 hydrogen atoms, and 6 oxygen atoms. And let me show you one even more complicated one. This substance is called chlorophyll A, and the formula tells us that each molecule contains 55 carbon atoms, 72 hydrogen atoms, 5 oxygen atoms, 4 nitrogen atoms, and then finally 1 atom of magnesium. Now, all of the molecular formulae that I've shown you so far are formulae of compounds. They've contained more than one element. But not all molecules are compounds. Some just contain atoms of a single element. So let's think about 2 atoms of oxygen. They can react together, and 2 oxygen atoms form a molecule, and the molecular formula of that molecule is O2. The same is true of nitrogen. 2 atoms of nitrogen can react together, and 2 nitrogen atoms also form a molecule, and the molecular formula is N2. So you can see that not all molecules are compounds. Some of them just contain one single type of element. Just before I end this video, I want to just remind you of the difference between a compound and a mixture. As we've seen, atoms in compounds are chemically joined to each other. So we might sketch them something like this. On the other hand, particles in mixtures are not chemically joined to each other. So we could have some particles like this, and some like this, and some like this. And they're just mixed up together like a bag of marbles. Now, we started this video by thinking about 2 definitions, the definition of a chemical element and of an atom, and we've added quite a few definitions to that list during this video. So as ever, here is a summary of what we've talked about. We've seen that a compound consists of atoms from 2 or more elements joined by a chemical reaction, and that the properties of a compound are very different to the properties of its constituent elements. We've also seen that a molecule is the smallest unit of a chemical compound, that a molecular formula shows the number of atoms of each element present in one molecule of a particular substance, and finally that a mixture consists of particles which are not chemically joined. As ever, if you haven't written any of that down, I suggest you pause the video and do that now. Well done, and see you in the next video.